Pop out dashboard. What? Oh, that's cool. What's my thumbnail for this? I don't know. I do like my thumbnails. It's okay. Hello. Hello. Okay, cool. You can text me. Oh shoot, where's my bookmark? There she blows. Okay. Well. It has been a while. I feel like I do want to have this out just because I do like sort of light on my face. I know. Let's do this. Let's do light screen. Whitescreen.com background tool. Cool. We'll just have that like that. No, we'll do. I do want this like just kind of small like that. Well, let's go like that. And just put this over here. This is too much. Okay, let's just grab. You know what? No. There's a will, there's a way. Oh my goodness. This is killing me, guys. This is really killing me right here. Okay, I'll do that. Just stay overlapped like so. Like that. Yeah. Cool. So now you can kind of see me. All right. Welcome back. Long time no see. Yeah, we're just gonna title this 8.5 because I don't know how much I want to read, but it's been a minute. I'm sure you guys don't care enough for an update. I don't even really know. Let's just put some work into this so we can move on to the next thing, right? Because let me know. Because I don't give a fuck about your new dude. You could text me. You my backseat. I don't give a fuck about your new guy. You could try me. It was all that you see. Okay. He cut away. He cut away like a razor blade, and we could hear the hiss of the water. What incredible speed sharks can make when they hurry. We wonder how their greatest speed compares with that of a porpoise. The variation in speed among individuals of these fast swimming species must be very great too. There must be incredible sharks like Man o' War or Charlie Paddock, which make other sharks seem slow. The night we hung the light over the side again and captured small squid, the usual heteroneurises. I'm not too good with new words, at least anymore. A number of free swimming crustacea, quantities of crab larvae, and transparent ribbon fish. Again, the boys developed a technique for catching flying fish. One jabbed at it with a net, making it fly into the net of another. But even the nets they were not caught. But even in the nets they were not caught, for they struggled and fluttered away with ease. The night we had a mild celebration of some minor event which did not seem important enough to remember. Sometimes you just need to rock out. The pans of animals were still lying on the deck, and one of the members, confusing Epsom salts with cracker crumbs, tried to euthanize. Um, oh wait, tried to anesthesize a large pan of holothuranians with a cracker meal. The resulting thick paste seemed to have no necrotic quantities, whatever, no necrotic qualities, whatever. Late in the night, we recalled that Horace says fried shrimp and African snails will cure a hangover. Neither were available, and we wonder whether this classical remedy for a time bridging ailment has been prescribed and tried since classical times. We do not know what snail he refers to, or whether it is a marine snail or an escargot, but it is too bad that such imaginative remedies have been abandoned for the banalities of anti-acid heart stimulants um, and anal- an- analgesics, analgesics. The Batchic mystery qualified and nullified by biochemistry, which is almost but not quite yet a mystic science, or suggests that wine of Kos taken with these shrimps and snail guarantees a remedy. Perhaps it would. In that case, his remedy is, in one respect, like those unguents used in witchcraft, which combine such items as dried baby brains, frog eyes, lizard tongues, and mold from a hanged man's skull with a quantity of good raw opium, and thus serve to stimulate the imagination and the central nervous system at the same time. In our pained discussion at San Lucas Cove, we found we had no snails, nor shrimp, nor wine of the cause. We tore the remedy down to its fundamentals and decided that it was a good strong dose of protein and alcohol. So we substituted a new compound, fried fish, and a dash of medicinal whiskey. And you know, it did the job. The use of euphemism in national advertising is given the hangover bad name. Overindulgence, it is called. There is a curious nastiness about overindulgence. We would not consider overindulging. Wait, we would not consider overindulging. The name is unpleasant, and the word over indicates that one shouldn't have done it. Our celebration had no such implication. We did not drink too much. We drank just enough, and we refused to profane a good time of mild ineb- inebriety with that slurring phrase of overindulgence. There was a reference immediately above the medicine chest. Um, on leaving Monterey, it may be remembered we had exhausted the medicine, but no sooner had we put to sea when it was discovered that each one of us, with the health of the whole party in mind, had laid in auxiliary medicine for emergencies. We had indeed, when the goodwill of all was assembled, a medicine chest which would not have profaned in fair sized bar. Oh. And the emergencies did occur. Who is to say that an emergency of the soul is not worse than a cold? Um, is not worse than a cold. What was good enough for Lipo was good enough for us. There have been few immortals who did not intend to try. There are few mortals who did not love wine. Offhand, we cannot think of any, and we do not intend to try very hard. The American Indians and the Australian Bushmen are the only great and intellectual people who have not developed an alcoholic liquor and a cult to take care of it. There are indeed groups among our people who have abandoned the use of alcohol due, no doubt, to Indian or Bushman blood. But we do not wish to claim affiliation with them. One can imagine such a specimen of Bushman reading this journal and saying, "Why, it was all the drinking, the beer, and at San Lucas Cove whiskey. So might a night watchman cry out, 'People sleep all the time.' So might a blind man complain, 'Among some people there is a pernicious and wicked practice called seeing. This eventually causes death and should be avoided.' Actually, with few tribal exceptions, our race has a triumphant alcoholic history, and no definite symptoms of degeneracy can be attributed to it. The theory that alcohol is a poison was too easily and too blindly accepted. So it is to some individuals, sugar is poison to others, and meat is that to others as well. But to the race in general, alcohol has been anodyne, an anodyne, a warmer of the soul, a strengthener of muscle and spirit. It has given courage to cowards, yep, and has made very ugly people attractive. There is a story of a Swedish tramp sitting in a ditch on midsummer night. He was ragged and dirty and drunk, and he said to himself softly, in wonder, I am rich and happy and perhaps a little beautiful. March 30th. Um, At 8:30 in the morning, the tide was ebbing, uncovering the sandbar in a great expanse of tidal sand flat. The flat was made to a large extent of broken shells of mollusks. In digging, we found many small clams and a few smooth Venus-like clams. We took one very large male fiddler crab, sloppy guts, the sur the Syrianthus was common here. There were numbers of hermit crabs, and many of the swimming crabs with bright blue claws. These crabs are eaten by Mexicans and are delicious. They swim very rapidly through the water. When we pursued them to the shallows, they tried to escape for a time, but soon settled to the bottom and raised their claws to a position not unlike that of a defensive boxer. Their pinch was very painful. When captured and put into a collecting bucket, they vented their fury on one another. Pinched off legs and claws littered the buckets on our return. These crabs do not seem to come out of the water as the grapsoids do. Removed from the water, they very soon weaken and lose their fight. Moreover, they do not die as rapidly in fresh water as most other crabs do. Perhaps living in the lagoons, which sometimes must also be brackish, they have achieved a tolerance for fresh water greater than that of other crabs. Greater indeed, although it is not much of a trick, than that of a certain biologist who shall be nameless. This varying threshold of tolerance is always an astonishing thing. Amphicious ordinary lives on the seaward side of a sandbar in a subtidal water, or at least in sand bared by only the lowest of tides. We dug them here and took only a few weak ones. It is not very low tide, and these were very possibly stragglers. In the probable, oh my God, it is probable that an extremely low tide would expose a level in which a great number of them may live. The capture of these animals is exciting and requires speed. They are perfectly streamlined and partly transparent. Also, they are extremely nervous. Sometimes, if the sand is struck with a shovel, they will jump out and frantically wiggle to get under the sand again, which they readily do. They are able to move through the sand and even under it with great rapidity. We turned over the sand and leaped at the same time before they could escape. There used to be very many of them at Balboa Beach in Southern California, but channel dredging and perhaps the great number of motorboats have made them quite rare. They are very interesting animals, being almost the dividing point between vertebrates and invertebrates. Usually 1 to 3 inches long and um, shuttle shaped, they are perfectly built to slip through the sand without resistance. The bar was rich with clams, many small chiones, and some small brazier clams. We extracted the carianthus from the sloppy casings and found many great time commensal sipu, sipune, sipunculid worms in the smooth liner of these cases. These were able to extend themselves so far that they seemed like hairs, or to retract until they were like peanuts. We do not find commensal pea crabs in the lining as we thought we would. St. Lucas Cove is nearly sloth-like. Sloth is nearly sloth-like. The water gets very warm and probably is very stale. It is exposed to the deadly sun, and it is so shallow that the water is soupy. This very quality of probable high salinity and warmth made it very difficult to preserve the Carianthus in the expanded state. Thus, the small bunadids are easily anas- anesthetized in Epsom salt, but Carianthus, after 6 to 8 hours of concentrated Epsom salt solution, and even standing in pans under the hot sun, were able to retract rapidly and violently expel water from the abhorrent pore when the persevering liquid touched them. Sooner or later, we would find the perfect method to anesthetize them, but um, it has not yet been found. What? There is hope that cold may work as an anesthetic if we can force absorption of formalin while the animals are relaxed in dry ice. By the same deal, the formalin, and if too warm, they retract and contract from within it. Back on board at about 11:30, we sailed for San Carlos Bay. We did not plan to stop in Santa Rosalia. It is a fairly large town which has been supported by copper mines in their neighborhood under the control of the French company. A little feeling of hurry was creeping upon us, for now we had begun to see the magnitude of the job we had undertaken and realized that with a limited time and more than limited equipment and personnel, that we could not make much of a job out of it. Our time was going fast. Much of Sparky and Tiny wished to continue their research and shore collecting at Santa Rosalia. Um, we sailed on it past. We sailed on past it, and it looked from the sea at least to be less Mexican than other towns. Perhaps that was um, because we knew it was run by a French company. A Mexican town grows out of the ground. You cannot conceive it's never having been there. But Santa Rosalia looked built. There were industrial works of large sizes visible, loading trestles and piles of broken rock. The mountain rose behind the town, burned almost white, and the green about the houses and the red roofs were still a startling contrast. Sparky had the wheel as we went by, and his left hand was heavy. It required a definite effort for my God, it required a definite effort of will for him to keep the course offshore. At about 6 p.m., we came to San Carlos Bay, a curious landlocked curve in the inner shallow bay. There is a good anchorage for small craft in the outer bay with 5 or 7 fathoms of water. The inner bay, or the lagoon, has sand beaches on all sides. We intended to collect on the heavy boulders in the inner or the eastern shore. There might be, we thought, a contrasting fauna to the tide, that of the tide flats of morning. The beach was piled high with rotting seaweed left by some fairly recent storm, perhaps, or possibly this is a beach at the end of some current life cycle, so that a high tide deposit great a high tide deposits great amounts of torn weed. There is such a beach at San Antonio del Mar on the weekend on the western shore of Lower California, about 60 miles south of Ensenada. The debris from the ship from hundreds of miles around is piled on this beach. Mountains of sea-washed boxes and the crates, logs, and lumber, great whitened piles of it, mixed in some bottles and cans and pieces of clothing. It is the termination of some great sweeping in the Pacific. Here at San Carlos, there was little human debris, so very few boats passed us, passed up the Gulf this far, and people looked surprised. Maybe they had planned to be here. I don't know. In decaying weed were myriads of flies and beach hoppers working on this endless food supply. But in spite of their incredible manners, we were able to catch only a few hoppers. They were too fast for us. Again, we felt that here in the Gulf, a little extra is added to protection of the animals. They are extra fast. They are extra armored. They seem to sting and pinch and bite worse than an animal in any other place. In the stand, we found that some clams rather liked the pismo clams of California, but shiny brown and black also. Um, some ribbed mussels like clams. On the rocks, we took two species of chitin and some new snails and crabs. There were the flatworms. Oh my god! I almost just like fell asleep. The f- Jesus Christ. The flatworms are hard to catch, for they flow over the rocks like quicksilver. Also, they are impossible to preserve as well. Many of them simply dissolve in preservative, while others roll up tightly. Heliaster, the sun star, was here, but he had continued to shrink and was quite small this far up in the gulf. Under the sand, there were a great number of heart urchins. That night, using the shaped lamp hung over the side, we had a great run of transparent fish, including a type we had not seen before. We took another squid, a larval mantis shrimp, and the usual Heteroneurius, and crustacea. Okay, that's enough for me. And it's on me. I like legit just like fell asleep a little bit. And also my reading skills are not that good anymore. Well, that's okay. I'm going to end the stream now. Okay, goodbye.